Hey guys, Shane here, so welcome to this weathering tutorial. With it being the 78th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, or the Ardennes Offensive, and it being a minus 3 degrees outside, I thought it a perfect time to do a tutorial on how I do the winter finishes on my vehicles. So I'm going to take you through each step I use to create a realistic and pretty simple to achieve weathering effect for winter vehicles. So first we're going to take some Ambo of Mig Damp Earth Nature Effects. So these are enamel washes that are pre-mixed. And just taking some directly out of the bottle, I'm just going to take a fine bristle brush here and just taking a small amount of this weathering effect. I'm just going to start working this in to the center of the hub and just the leading edge of the rim. I'm leaving the center of the tire completely bare here because the motion of the tire would push most of the accumulation of the mud towards the center of the hub rather than the outboard area. So I'm just going to apply this around the hub, just doing a few layers. I don't want to go too crazy. And then I'm just going to take a brush that's been moistened in white spirit here, or you can use enamel thinner, and I'm just going to blend out this effect here. I'm going to start pulling the effect out towards the outer elements of the tire, as well as just using a cotton swab to remove the center area. I want to kind of keep the center of the tire bare, if you like. And now I'm going to come in here and just paint around the treads, again using our enamel effect directly out of the bottle. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to take a Q-tip here or a cotton swab, and I'm just going to remove the excess. I want to expose the treads and just leaving the enamel effect in the center of the tire. So now to create some more fresher mud that's been just splashed up onto the vehicle, we're going to take some MIG Fresh Mud Effect. Again, this is an enamel effect. And using the exact same process, we're going to start painting this fresh colour or this darker mud colour into the centre of the hubs. I want to leave some of the other colour visible too, because we want to kind of create some contrast. Just applying a small amount at a time. I don't want to overload my brush, and I just want to build that up. So while the effect is still wet, I'm just going to take some winter soil pigment. This is probably my favourite colour. And I'm just going to apply this onto the wet enamels here. Just applying a small amount, and then I'm going to start stippling it in just to mix them all together. This is going to create our texture and also give an indication of built up mud. As you can see, I'm really focusing this into the wheel and the hub assembly, leaving the tyre somewhat clean. So now with the enamel effect and pigment allowed to dry, we're going to add some compacted snow into the wheels. And for this, we're going to take some Vallejo still water and then a little bit of MIG's wet snow effect. So this is like a snow powder. So I'm going to mix up roughly a 50-50 ratio. You can vary how much you want of either one if you want to make it thicker or lighter. And I'm just going to mix this up here until I get a real kind of slush or slurry effect. So this is a little bit too thick. I want it to be a little bit more thinner than this. So I'm just going to add a few more drops here of our still water. And then I just give and take until I'm happy with the consistency. So really I'm looking for like a porridge-like consistency. So now I'm nice and happy with the effect. I'm just going to start applying this into the most recessed elements of the tyre. Again, where I feel ice would accumulate and get caught in some of the deeper crevices of the tyre. I do find when weathering like this, it's less is more. So just go in small little sections at a time using small amounts of effect and just see how it looks. Give and take rather than just overwhelming the model surface with weathering product. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes new modelers do when they get their hands on these type of effects. They just put on too much too quick. So now I'm going to take some AK Interactive Snow Micro Balloons. Now be a little bit careful handling this. This is an irritant. I'm just going to load up a brush with this and then tap this into the wet snow effect that we just laid. You can also apply this mixture with a little bit of gloss varnish around the treads of the tyres if you want to add some snow caught inside the treads as well, if you like. So now that I'm happy with the snow effect, we're going to start adding compacted mud into the running gear of our truck. And for this, we're going to use some Ambo of Mig Fresh Mud Effect. And again, we're just going to use a similar principle. I'm going to start picking areas I feel where mud would be thrown and get captured or collected. So any kind of sharp edges, especially like here in the corner of the fender, I'm going to start building this up. So I'm going to lay down some of our enamel effect, and then just taking some of our winter soil pigment, again by Ammo of Make, I'm just going to start stippling in this pigment to add some texture and build this up. And I'm going to keep adding subsequent layers of enamel effect and then pigment on top of it. Just adding and taking as I like. But again, just move in small sections. Try to visualize how the wheels would throw the mud up into this fender unit here. How the mud then would slowly spread out with time. So I'm just going to keep adding and expanding this mud and building it up in subsequent layers. I'm not trying to do it in one go. I just want to slowly build it up, see how I feel about it, and just keep adding from there. So you can see there's a lot of back and forth. So I have two separate brushes here, one for my pigment, one for my enamel wash, and I'm just going back between the two of them and just adding this effect as I go and slowly working my way out. The step here on the fender is going to get the same treatment, again with the fresh mud effect. Just painting that into the recess first, and basically the sharp edge where mud will accumulate and get caught, and then coming back in with our pigment and stippling that into the wet effect. So to add some thicker mud, we're going to use some of their heavy mud effect, again by Ammo of Make. So this is a more textured version of the enamel effects that we've been using, so it's just a little bit heavier, like a heavy paste if you like. And I'm going to come back in on top of the area that we've added our enamel and pigment mixture, and I'm going to start working this into the more sharper edges where I really want to kind of give the idea that mud is really accumulated and built up. And again, I'm just applying this straight out of the pot. I haven't thinned this down in any way. And I'm just going to stipple and work this in, just small amounts at a time until I get a feel of how this is going to behave. And I'm just working on any kind of sharp edges, again, where the mud will catch. And then it's coming back in there with our winter soil pigment, and again stippling that in just to add a bit more texture. So I'm going to add some even thicker mud still, and for this we're going back to our Vallejo. So this is their heavy mud effect, I believe, or thick mud effect, that's what it is. And this is an acrylic, so make sure that everything is dry before we apply this. Now this is a slightly different colour and hue, but this is a really thick paste that's textured with a bit of static grass, and we're going to apply this into the areas I feel the mud will catch the most, just to create a really three-dimensional effect. Now I know this is a slightly different colour, but we're going to blend this in with some more enamel effects later on in this video. So I'm really just kind of focusing this paste into the leading edges of the fender as well. So you can kind of see that I'll pick a sharp corner and kind of work my way out. And I'm using gradually less and less as I work my way out. I don't want to be too thick, I'm just being very careful. And I'm also going to catch the sharp leading edge of the underside of the fender. As you can see me here now, I'm going to start working this in, just stippling it in. I don't have too much, it looks like I have a lot on the brush, but I actually don't. This is just going to give me a sense of, fresh mud being thrown up by the wheels or being brought up by the crewmen's feet as they step in and out of the vehicle. But again, just work in small amounts at a time and give and take as you need. So now we're going to add some mud splatter effects. Now this is a really cool and simple method of creating really realistic mud effects, and I'm just going to take In the end, I actually only land up using the fresh mud effect. And just taking an old brush that's kind of got jagged bristles, I'm just going to load it up with some of this effect. And then just using a cocktail stick, I'm just going to flick this up and project small splatters up onto the vehicle. This is also a way to create mud being thrown up past the fenders and on up onto the vertical surfaces, as well as blending all the previous layers together. Also, a really simple way of creating a weathered windshield effect. I'm just going to splatter some of this up onto the windshield, and that's just going to create some dust or some dirt being thrown onto the windshield. So now we're moving on to the cargo bed, and we're going back to our Amov Meg Dampert, and we're just going to paint around the edges of this effect. So I'm just going to paint down a relatively thick layer, just focusing on the sharp edge, and then just coming in with a clean brush with a little bit of white spirit or enamel thinner, and I'm just going to start blending this back. We're going to put a lot of cargo into this, you're not going to see a lot of it, but this is just going to give us an indication of mud. And then I'm going to take, again, some of our winter soil pigment, and just like we did on the other elements of the model, we're just going to work this into the wet pigment, or to the wet enamel, should I say, sorry. I'm really focusing it near the tailgate because that's the only part that's going to be visible. I'm also going to give the leading edge of these little fenders a little bit of attention, again with our damp earth. And then once I'm laid down and sketched in where I want the mud to go, I'm just going to come in here now with a little bit of pigment and tap that in. The mentality at play here really is just, where would you find mud? Like, so again, look at photographs of muddy vehicles, whether it be civilian or military, and just see where mud catches. So around fenders, around sharp kind of acute angles where mud can catch and not fall away. And just slowly kind of work around and experiment. And because we're only doing small sections at a time with small amounts of product at a time, we have a lot of say and control over how these things are going to behave. Now I'm going to start projecting some more of our dark mud splatter here, just using the dark mud effects or fresh mud effects. Using the exact same method by just using a cocktail stick and an old brush, load it with the enamel, and I'm just going to start projecting it. Focusing really on the lower side of the fenders and lower side of the hull. I don't want to project it up too high onto the vehicle. And this also helps bridge and homogenize the effect together to make it work as a harmony rather as competing contrasting colours. So now we're going to add some more thicker mud, again going back to our Vallejo thick mud effects. I'm just using a cocktail stick and an old brush. I'm just going to apply some of this acrylic paste into some of the sharp areas. I just want to create some built up mud. Again, you can kind of see that I'm not using a lot, just small amounts at a time, and just working in tiny sections. There's a good kind of setting time on these, depends on the humidity and the temperature that you're working at in your workstations. However, I find this stuff will be active for at least 10-20 minutes at a time, so you have plenty of time to give and take. So now we're going to add something that's a first for me, which is actually snow effects. I have never really done this properly on the model before. And we're just going to take a combination of Ammo of Mig Wet Effects. AK's got the exact same product, you can use either, and some of AK Interactive's Snow Micro Balloons. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prepare the areas I want the snow effect with a little bit of the wet effects, and then taking our brush that's been loaded with the micro balloons, I'm just going to start tapping and working in some of this loose snow here. I don't have to cover the entire carriage because a lot of it's going to be hidden with cargo, but I'm just going to slowly build this up on areas I want to add a little bit of snow. So I'm working on the fenders, some of the sharp edges again where snow might collect and accumulate. Again, we don't want to go too crazy, just little small areas. And we don't want it to be too clean. You know, mud and snow are not a clean combination. You ever look at mud on a car that's in motion? It's kind of a dirty sludge. So we kind of want to blend and tap some of this effect in together just to kind of blend them ever so slightly. Not too aggressively, but just to give an idea that they're kind of in a state of flux and it's somewhat dynamic, if you like. So the top of the fenders here are going to get the same treatment here, so our wet effects to prepare the surface, and then just to tap in a small amount of the snow effect on top of it. It's easy to go a bit overboard with this, so just small sections at a time, and then see how you feel. Don't cover the entire model with wet effects and then bathe it in snow. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. So just move in small sections and slowly build it up. So now I'm going to slowly assemble our model here, just being careful not to knock off anything. And with that, we're going to start adding our final effects. So again, you can see that I've mounted the stowage and added snow to them using the exact same method with our wet effect, and then just sprinkling with a brush with a little bit of the snow effect. And I'm just kind of tidying things up and just blending things together now, just adding a little bit of snow here and there. So like here on top of the tarp, onto the seats. Areas I feel that snow would build up, and the thing here is that you have to be a bit kind of mindful that if you put snow in one area, you have to put into another that's open to the elements, otherwise it looks kind of strange. So again, I didn't put much snow into the cab, so I came back in and added a little bit more. So there you have it, guys. It's a pretty simple tutorial and not that many effects in the end. We only really used three main things, which is the damp earth, fresh mud, and the pigment. And you can see by using combinations of all three, you can get a really simple effect. And then the snow is just a cherry on the top. So guys, I really hope you found this interesting. I do hope to have another video before Christmas, but if not, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Stay safe out there, guys, and do catch me in the next episode where we build a Basstones themed diorama for our deuce and a half here. So thank you so much, guys. I've been Shane. Stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye.